All right, Casey,
How are you?
introduce yourself. Who are you?
I'm Casey Baker. I'm a director at Canvas Worldwide in Los Angeles. I work on entertainment accounts, CPG, pretty much kind of runs the gamut. I've been in the business for a while, so I've loved to see how it's grown from static to digital, contextual. So, yeah.
So let's tap into that experience. What are you seeing today as we look across the breadth of all the different contextual targets out there, or targeting capabilities out there, be it weather, traffic, time of day? What seems to be working? Is it really influencing customer behavior?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think kind of like the one thing that we should probably think about it is that we can't really look at just the peripheral data. It's actually that this contextual is behavioral, right? So what our main goal here is to increase intent and attention. So you have to do it at the right time. So I look at it as like, there's weather triggers, but there's also time for weather, like, hey, okay, what media formats are we gonna buy with the weather, right? And do a trigger. Is it traffic? Anything like that. So I think we have to be smart in how we do it, who we do it to, and where we do it. That makes sense. So,
Totally.
yeah.
Okay, so sometimes, to me at least, and then maybe I'll just play the heel here, sometimes some of these triggers can feel like novelties. It's like, okay, we could do this thing because the data exists,
Right.
but should we? So how do you guide brands through that decisioning around which attributes, which signals, which moments in time are worth versioning off of or triggering a campaign off of versus the ones that, yeah, you could, but do you really need to?
Right. Testing and learning, we all love that word, but it's also like we can't test and learn too much because just because these triggers are available doesn't mean that each client should use them. And I think so it comes down to kind of client vertical, you know, telling my entertainment client, right, like we may not be doing weather triggers, we may be, or traffic triggers, right? But like, hey, go to the mall, go to the AMC that's at the mall, go there. So I think kind of just like teaching our clients the right way to do it, and then also not leaning into just because this worked for this auto brand may not work for an entertainment brand. So I think we have to be smart on our own end on that. So.
Yeah, basically be effectively forever students, always learning.
Exactly, and I mean, you know, like again, like I said, client vertical, but it also comes down to the KPI as well. You know, like what is our main goal, and how are we going to get there? Who are we going to talk to, and like even if it's like duration, even, you know, like if it's a 4-week flight or an 8-week flight, what can we do to keep storytelling? So,
Yeah, tell me a little bit more about that. How do your KPI decisions change as you think through the different types of targeting capabilities you might be deploying?
Mine are funny because I'm just getting butts and seats in theaters. So, but that's a good question. I don't know.
Come back to you on that one?
Yeah.
No worries on that. Okay, so as we think about the data that you're going to action off of, talk to me about the frameworks that you set up and that you structure. How do you think through the planning side to contextual?
It's audience plus context. So like I guess like I said earlier, commuter plus morning, like morning rush hour traffic, maybe we'll be on more billboards, right? Or shoppers, weekend, hot weather, malls. But I think like even Rick said yesterday, like what works somewhere like in New York, like a transit shelter, is way different in an environment, you know, so than like in LA, right? So you can't just make like an LA model and just use that in New York. It's not going to work out that way. So. And
I also have to imagine, I think Rick kind of talked a little bit about this, and I know you and I talked about this a little bit as well prior to this conversation of even within a market, things might be different. What works in one block might not work another block over. How do you think through within a given DMA buy of which placements, which inventory are just a pure maybe static placement versus the ones that should be contextually driven?
That's a really good question. That's, again, a test. But yeah, it's like New York, you go around a corner and it's a totally different environment. We're struggling too with out of home that we're not a one-to-one audience or like, you know, targeting, right? So digital you go to one website and you see this, you go to another website, you see something different. We can't do that. So I almost want to say at this point in the game, it's almost too granular. where I feel like if you have doubts, don't go contextual, if that makes sense.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think you run the static, see how it's going with intent, and then as that flight goes on, you can kind of readjust your story.
So you take like an accretive approach, like
Right.
incremental, step by step, build it up, and then okay. So not just like ditch to ditch on the
Right.
targeting front.
Right. Yeah.
Interesting. So as you think through the enablement side, are there tools, platforms that you're leveraging today that help make all of this just a little bit easier to do? I'm assuming you're not just in an Excel file, just crunching this all out spot by spot.
Yeah, we are.
You are.
No, I mean, I like personally. I mean, for like our agency, we lean a lot on, if it's programmatic, we lean a lot on our programmatic partners, and I mean, they're there for our help, right? We're working together, so kind of using them, using the DCO, they have creative people that can help build that. I mean, I can call out companies, but it's like your Place IQs
Sure.
or your Foursquares, you know, like doing the pre-work, looking at the traffic. Maybe we don't know what that market is, like Minneapolis. I'm not there every day, so utilizing like a Place IQ or Foursquare to know, okay, these are the times when traffic is crazy. It may not be the morning, maybe it's later morning. So like that helps me. I used to be a radio and TV buyer, so like day parting, right? We would buy morning drive and afternoon drive and then evening drive. So that's kind of how we're doing out of home now. We're moving it that way. So.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so now one of the things I'm curious on is when we talk about these contextual triggers in these moments in time, sometimes it can feel like it's happening right then and there. Rain starts coming down, the billboard switches on. There's a traffic accident, instantly things get backed up. Now somehow that's going to change our versioning. But there's probably, I'm imagining, this like push-pull between which messages are serviced best when they are a little bit predictive versus the ones that are true moment in time.
Right.
How do you think through some of that decisioning between the reactive and the predictive?
Market list and client.
Okay.
So I'll start with the market first. Like we were just talking last week at work about excessive heat, right? So it got to like above 100 degrees. We need to get them at our place of business, right? In LA, when it's 100 degrees, people are not going, they're going to the beach or they're gonna stay inside, right? Or if it's 2 degrees in New York, most people are probably gonna stay inside, right? So that was kind of my market list. It was like, it could be different in Minneapolis. Like I don't know why I keep going back to Minneapolis, but
You have a real love for
yeah, I guess I do.
Minneapolis.
I've never
Yeah.
been there, but
You've never even
yeah,
been?
no, I haven't.
You've just always fondly thought off of the great
Yeah,
state.
Right. And then when I go to the type of client, like an auto client, where was I going with this? Oh, predictive and reactive,
Yeah.
right? So it's like we want them to buy the vehicle. So we want to push them down the funnel a little bit further. I work on entertainment. We're at the top of the funnel, right? So it's a little bit different. But like, for instance, we've done stuff where if somebody is driving an electric vehicle, they get served a different ad, right? So that's kind of reactive, right? So we're making sure that we're talking to them, or I pull up in my truck, a different creative for an EV car would come up, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of have to just roll with the punches a little bit.
I got that. All right, so let's talk about that creative piece a little bit more. So what does good and great contextual creative look like versus something, that's more of just like a static placement? Like we got some great examples from Tanger just now, looking at
Right.
a rain-triggered creative. But how do you think through some of those considerations? And then are there aspects of like motion that might come into play as we think back to Christie's presentation with anamorphic? How do you kind of consider all the different types of creative and meshing that with your contextual triggers?
Yeah, it's right place, right time, right consumer. So you have to put your consumer hat on. We just kind of heard that. But letting the creatives play together. So I buy large impact, full motion screens. We're not going to really do too much contextual on that. But then if we have a full motion screen that's on a highway, or not on a highway, but like in an entertainment area, we can throw in kind of we did the naughty list for one of our movies last year during Christmas, and it was a full motion and it was just running. we were talking to the kids for that one, right? And we had Chuck E. Cheese, like talking to the parents, talking to the kids also. So like the great creative kind of like plays off each other, you know? So we had 100 different static placements everywhere around LA, but then we had this one board that had the naughty list countdown, and it worked amazing.
That was the movie with The Rock, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha,
Yeah.
gotcha. Very cool.
Yeah.
So then
Red
as you...
One, it was the, yeah.
Oh, the movie was Red
Was
One?
Red One, yes.
All right,
Yeah.
we'll add that to our holiday viewing party rundown. All right, so as you think through your approach to contextual, what are some of those big roadblocks that you consistently find yourself having to move, both internally or with your clients? Is it data? Is it creative production? Is it getting internal buy-in to go after something that's a little more intricate to deploy? What are those things that are tripping you up?
Yeah, so it's definitely internal buy-in. When I say internal, it's almost external. We don't have creative teams, so we work with our clients' creative teams. So a lot of the times you're like, yeah, I need you to build 100 different iterations of this. And they're like, nope, not happening. I'll do 2. And this, obviously, that's where DCO comes in handy, right? So like kind of that, getting them to which and how much time they have too. So a lot of our campaigns, we've got 2 or 3 month lead time. That 2 or 3 months is gone before we even know it. Another one too, and I'm not going to try to ruffle any feathers, but we run into it also, and I think probably a lot of agencies do, is that you have a programmatic buying team that's buying out of home, but they don't understand the landscape of out of home as much as they do with digital display. So
That's what Rick talked about.
right,
Yeah.
exactly, and it's no fault of anybody's, and it's we're like we should all be working together. But I think that is one of the major roadblocks, because it's like I go back to the perfect time, perfect place. If it's not doing that, the money we're spending to build all these contextual triggers it's just not worth it. And then inventory fragmentation. So if we're not buying a bucket, through like, a programmatic DSP or anything, and we're going vendor to vendor, their data and inventory fragment, like the data coming in, could be different. So we're getting mixed signals everywhere we go. So if you can kind of couple that in, that's kind of what I would say. So.
Got it. Love it. All right. Where I want to end on is as you think about your planning for the year ahead, what advice would you give to fellow planners that are looking to test into contextual for the very first time, but maybe are facing some constraints around their bandwidth, their budget, and so on? How might you steer them in approaching this added layer? So I guess maybe another way of saying is, you talked about kind of those accretive steps of building up towards it. If you're at that point where you're ready to make the leap, but maybe you're just like waffling on, am I really ready to? How might you steer planners?
Let's do the analogy that it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So I think, first of all, getting them on board, but also, like you said, kind of, we'll run a traditional digital plan, and we'll start to layer these triggers on as we go and start testing. I mean, I keep saying it, but it really is testing and learning. Whether you're getting foot traffic, obviously put that data in there. Start seeing it, okay, this creative actually did get us somewhere. Maybe we should do something different, So I think there's just a lot of ways to look at it. Also, I think the main, and I said it earlier, is what works with one client is not going to work for another. So you really need to be smart in how you implement these triggers. So.
Got it. Build a strong foundation and go from there.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, thank you, Casey. I appreciate it.
No worries. Thank
All
you.
right. Any final questions from the crowd for Casey as we close out our summit?
Oh, I love it. Do it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear any lessons or learnings you might have related to flight duration and timing. We talked a little bit, like this is an area that we are leaning into, and we can see, whether it's creative fatigue or our sale campaigns can vary. Do you have any good lessons or learnings, maybe from the movie experience where you are flighting a week before release and the first 2 weeks being important? Are you usually at like a 3 week, a 4 week? Like, how do you think about flighting, and any recommendations there from a duration?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go with the typical generic 4-week flight. But I think if you're utilizing a lot of these triggers, and like for you guys, I mean, there's constant and always on approach is probably the smartest. But I would say 4 to 6 maybe 8 weeks is just somewhere where you can kind of get in that sweet spot where you're building that frequency. Another great thing too is like, oh, I don't have the budget, like a clients will come and say, I don't have the budget to do 8 weeks. Well, yeah, now we do, because we can day part it. You don't have to run all day. We can be very strategic on when and where we run. So kind of, and programmatically, obviously, you're limiting your waste. So you're hitting your target, but you're also running in the morning, and then maybe you take a little bit off and then run it in the afternoon. So, yeah.
All right, well, thank you,
right.
Casey.
Thank you.
Well done.
All right, John, are you going to bring us home?